Welcome to Fine Tuning with Drew Taylor, your one-stop shop when it comes to animation news and commentary. I'm Drew's co-host, entertainer writer Jim Hill, and he and I are recording this show on Monday, November 21st, 2022. And I'm pretty sure what you want to hear is Drew Taylor talking about the news that broke last night at 10 o'clock. In fact, did you do the same thing I did when it showed up? Did you initially go, no, this is fake, this is a hack, this can't be real?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was getting texts from people at the company, and I said, please send me the screenshots.
Yep.
Let me see this for real, because it is just, it's insane. So I people very generously sent me the actual letter, and yeah, it was astounding.
You know how in your email you can group things by date or name or address? That's what I did. I literally took when the press release came through, after a couple of minutes, hit address just to check, and it's the same address. But at the same time, given everything that's going on over at Twitter, I thought, oh God, somebody's hacked somehow. Right. But Nancy and I actually debated about putting the info out there, and I said, let's wait till it shows up someplace, and like a second later it showed up on Deadline, and it's like, okay, Deadline has it, it's legit. Okay, we are 20 hours in at this point. Drew and I are recording at like 8:40 East Coast time. Okay, 22 hours in. What have you heard over the past 24?
Well, I've been working for, I think, 20 of those hours, just covering every little twist and turn. But, I had heard last night that there was some kind of meeting being convened on the lot. So, of course, I jumped in the car and drove down and tried to see if I could see anybody. But everybody that I've talked to from a bunch of different business units has been just really, if not outright elated, then cautiously optimistic for what this means for the company. And I haven't seen this kind of level of enthusiasm at Disney in a long time. But I would love to know what you are hearing and what vibe you're getting from people.
People have to have realistic expectations. Bob Chapek is gone. At the same time, evidently, on his way out the door, he signed an NDA and a non-disparagement agreement.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, so we're not going to hear the stories that this is not Michael Ovitz too. Everything I've heard is that there have been concerns about Mr. Chapek for about 5 months, but things really crystallized after the last earnings call, and then like 3 days later, the memo went out about the hiring freeze and the layoffs, and the concern at that point was that he's going to call the shots as to who's going to be fired at the company, who's going to be let go. And it's like, and there's no coming back from that. And there were so many people who were already pointing, for example, to Bob Weiss leaving and to Peter Rice leaving. And it's just sort of like, do we really want this to happen? And a lot of folks on the board decided no. And then things really began to move last week, as I understand it. Though I guess it wasn't until Friday that they reached out to Iger and felt him out about whether or not he was interested in returning.
Yeah, I'd heard he'd made their decision in less than 12 hours, which means that he was really bugging Willow at home if she said, yes, take the job, get out of here.
It's so interesting you bring up Willow. Willow Bay, Bob Iger's wife. She teaches at UCLA, I want to say.
I believe so, yeah.
Have you been hearing the Tom Brady Giselle jokes in regard to Bob Iger and Willow, to the effect of, you're unretiring? Do I have to call and find out who Giselle's lawyer is? But evidently the 2-year agreement, evidently Bob went and spoke with Willow, and Willow was like, okay, 2 years. You can do this for 2 years, but then you're retired. So it's not the board that set the 2-year limitation on this deal. It's Bob Iger's wife. But it's, just come back, clean up the mess that Bob Chapek made. And by proxy, remember that Bob Iger was the guy who, after doing the bake-off with Jay Rizzullo and Tom Staggs, that's how we wound up with Chapek. So this is his mess to clean up.
It's very interesting that he has designed his own trap. I mean, You and I have talked about the possibility of them buying Candle Media and installing Meyer and Staggs in, the CEO and president positions, much like Eisner and Wells. But
that's what I'm hearing from people around Susan Arnold, that she was the one who evidently really put her foot on the gas and made this happen. But supposedly the conversations they've had with Bob Iger is, it's like, look, the most creative and most controlled times of the company were when there were two. You had a creative and you had a money guy. You had a Walt or a Roy, or you had a Michael and a Frank. And so what's been set up in front of Mr. Iger is find the two people, not men, could be women, to run the Disney company today. Because when you seriously look at the size of the company that Disney is, when Iger walked out the door, I mean, the Disney, Pixar, Marvel, Star Wars, ESPN, ABC, the parks. I think Bob Chapek proved it. It's too big for one guy to run. So that's where we are. So,
well, it'll be interesting to see who comes back with him, and
yes.
if there will be more maneuvering from here on out.
As I understand it, there's a lot of folks who were raised up during the company during Bob Chapek's brief run at the top, and it's that we've already seen Kareem Daniel just today step away. And other thing people need to understand here is that we're headed into the holiday season and award season. So there's going to be a lot of artificial cover for Bob Iger in the coming weeks between the short work weeks and people focusing on awards and that sort of thing. So he will have time to sort of sit back, evaluate, and sort of prune Disney as he sees fit. But
he also loves this. He loves getting in there and, shaking hands at a party after a screening and stuff. So I'm very curious as to how upfront he'll be with things.
Yeah, but think about how long it takes to get a movie made today, especially these Disney event pictures, that sort of thing. 3 and 4 years to get some of these things out the door. So even if Bob starts making decisions about, okay, we're going to make that movie or we're going to add that attraction to the park, again, this is a guy who's only supposed to be here for 2 years. People need to have realistic expectations about what this guy can do to turn the Disney company around, which is an ocean liner. Boy, Debbie Downer here. Nice to meet you, folks.
Speaking of ocean liner, I wonder what they're going to do with that cruise ship, Jim.
Oh, God. The Global Dream?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been hearing some interesting stories about that, too. But evidently, they found out that the company was making the Global Dream, went into bankruptcy. The ship was sitting there in the shipyard, basically available for pennies on the dollar. Disney Cruise Line went over and looked at the thing and came back and said, we have ships, and we always talk about how the other cruise liners have basically milk cartons. This is a milk carton. This is a giant milk carton for 9,000 people that was designed to have a huge casino. Casinos, by the way. And it was just one of these things where it's like, yeah, I mean, we could get it for pennies on the dollar. What would we do with it? And evidently, Chapek, after hearing that, said, okay, thank you, wanted Wall Street to think of him as a deal maker and said, I'm going to make this deal. I'm going to buy this ship, and you guys are going to figure out what to do with it. Mind you, a Bob Iger for a kill fee can make this all go away.
Yes, I'm also hearing some interesting things about another possible merger.
Okay.
I don't know what your favorite fruit is, Jim. I think Bob Iger is very fond of apples. That's all I...
Oh, God help us. So that's a little taste of what's going on. And so how many stories do you have in the works right now for the wrap?
I mean, right now I'm getting messages from my boss right now asking where I'm doing one about the sort of the most pressing fires that Iger has to put out right now. So yeah, I'm working on that at the moment. So that'll be up tomorrow morning, and I'm sure everyone will. Yeah, I've been. This is interesting. This is like round the clock coverage, Jim, and nothing really puts the squeeze on you like also trying to finish 900 other articles before the holiday weekend. That's
all right. Okay, folks, I know it's an animation podcast. We should get to the animation news. So the news portion of this podcast is brought to you by Storybook Destination, trusted travel partner of the Jim Hill Media Podcast Network. For a worry-free travel experience every time, please book online at storybookdestinations.com. Prior to this, Bob Chapek, Bob Iger, barely worth mentioning news. Drew and I had been looking over what's going over in animation this week, and kind of light. I mean, a lot of trailers. I mean, for example, you got to see the trailer for My Dad, the Bounty Hunter, right?
Yeah, it looks really fun, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It kind of reminds me a little bit. Did you get to see that Owen Wilson, Michael Pena secret headquarters thing for...
Yes, I did. For Paramount Plus.
Yeah. I mean, a little bit of that vibe. This project with animation filmmaker Everett Downing Jr., and he worked with, Matthew Cherry on Hair Love.
Yes.
And that got turned into a series for HBO Max called Young Love. It's supposed to be 12 episodes, but project got greenlit back in July of 2020. Is this one of these things that got tripped up by the David Zaslav thing?
I don't know. It's still coming on as far as I know. I've seen a little bit of it. It's really wonderful. The animation style is super charming. And it's a really fun expansion of that world. So maybe next year it'll be on?
Okay, yeah. Well, the reason I ask is, again, the Hair Love led to Young Love, the series. And what's kind of confusing me about My Dad, the Bounty Hunter, is depending on where you look, they describe it as a movie that's debuting on February 9th, 2023. But I've also seen in some places that it's a new sci-fi adventure series. So is it the movie that kickstarts a series?
Oh, I don't know. I thought it was a movie too, and then I thought I saw that it was a series. So yeah, I have no idea. Yeah.
Okay. Well, based on the trailer, it looks great. Check it out, February 9th of next year. Who knows? Maybe it will lead to a series. We also got a trailer for Pixar's Elemental by our buddy Peter Sohn. By the way, is it the battle damage Socks the Cat that's supposed to show up at Target? What am I looking for? You were telling me
that's in February. It's going to be the aged Buzz and the battle damage socks. Terminator socks, as I like to call them. Yeah.
Okay. All right. February. All right. Now, I will first watch My Dad, the Bounty Hunter, and then go to Target. Okay. I have to say, I like the trailer. It gave me a very Monsters, Inc. meets Inside Out by way of Soul vibe. Showed us a world that we haven't seen before, but that's still very familiar to us. That's kind of Pixar's jam. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, it's. I think I wrote that it was the Pixariest Pixar trailer ever.
Yes.
Imagine, Jim, a world where elements come to life, and yeah. But I mean, I loved all the gags on the train with, the water guy sneezing on the earth guy, and then he has a lot of hair, It was all very fun.
Absolutely. And in our very last moments, we get to meet Wade, our Made of Water guy, and Ember, our Made of Fire gal. We should mention that you and I, because we went to the studio presentation at D23 back in September, we've seen a couple of actual scenes from this thing, right?
Yeah, and heard about the challenges that went into making the Pixariest Pixar movie ever, including how to make her look like she was made of fire but not on fire.
There we go.
Yes.
There we go. By the way, the Pixariest thing. See, this is why you end up on the side of boxes. But yes, again, the Pixariest Pixar film. That's a great description of Elemental, which arrives in theaters June 16th of 2023. We also got another trailer for Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, coming out next month. In fact, a month from today, December 21st. Directed by Joel Crawford, who a longtime storyboard artist at DreamWorks Animation. He was the director of The Croods: A New Age, right?
Yeah, he's kind of a pitch hitter because he's come in and kind of saved these two big franchise movies. Pretty cool. I can't wait to see it. I cannot believe I haven't seen it yet, Jim. It's just insane.
I'm hearing that one of the reasons it has not been screened yet for the folks in the press, the media, that sort of thing, is you have suggested in the past that there is a Shrek film coming. And
I
not
have
a reboot.
Suggested that. Yes.
You have seen it. Well, I was hearing from somebody at DreamWorks Animation that evidently a decision has been made in regard to the post-credit scene of this film, and that this will be our first look at what a Shrek and Donkey will look like. Because remember, what's interesting about Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is it's really kind of a different style than we saw for the earlier. Because face it, we've had Puss in Boots has been a character in the Shrek franchise since what, Shrek 2 back in 2004. This is kind of a different take style-wise on the animation for the Shrek films, but evidently there was a decision made that, okay, that this is where we revealed that this is actually going to happen, or at least that's what I was told. Have you heard anything to that effect? Or?
I haven't heard. I know that this is sort of the inaugural film in the next kind of stage of Shrek movies, or whatever you want to say. But I'm very interested to see if the art style will persist. Like, is this going to be, is this what Shrek is going to look like? Yeah, there's some really interesting DreamWorks movies coming up that we can't talk about yet, but I'm really looking forward to some really fun original movies, and then other things like the third Trolls movie, which I've heard is wonderful, and Kung Fu Panda 4 and the new Shrek. And it's just, it feels like a very exciting time for DreamWorks.
They went through a tough time during all of those years when Jeffrey was trying to line up someone to buy them. So it's nice that they have a safe harbor now where they can do good work, and it'll be interesting to see going forward here. But, what bubbles up. Oh, speaking of bubbles, back in 1989, Steven Hillenburg was working at the Ocean Institute at Dana Point, California, and he was teaching marine science and was trying to get the kids in his class excited about the various forms of sea life that can be found in tidal pools around the California coast, and thinking that maybe taking a non-traditional approach to this educational material might be a way to make a breakthrough, get the kids finally engaged. So Hillenburg creates an educational comic book called The Intertidal Zone. And Drew, who was introduced in that educational comic book?
You might remember him, Jim, as a he lives in a pineapple under the sea. That's how I'll start you off with that. That's the hint.
Okay.
But was he called SpongeBob SquarePants in that initial project?
I think initially it was Sponge Boy. I had a friend, Justin Jorgensen, who knew Steven. I think they went to Cal Arts together, and he was talking about, hey, Steven's placed his show. They're going to do the pilot at Nickelodeon. And it's like, what's it called? It's SpongeBob SquarePants. And I made him say the name four times because it was like, that can't really be the name. SpongeBob SquarePants? Anyway, sadly, we lost Mr. Hillenburg back in November of 2018 to ALS. But SpongeBob is an ongoing concern. 278 episodes of the original series produced to date, 3 theatrically released films.
With a 4th on the way.
There we go, in 2025. And 2 spin-offs from the original series, The Patrick Star Show, and then over at Paramount Plus, we have Camp Coral, SpongeBob's Under Years. And in 2023, Nickelodeon is presenting The Tidal Zone, which in a very MCU sort of way is the very first SpongeBob universe crossover special. It's Patrick Star's grandfather, Grandpat, goes on a multi-dimensional adventure and visits the worlds of all 3 of the SpongeBob-related animated series. And I love the folks who were working on this called it Tidal Zone as kind of a nod back to the comic book that, started it all, the Intertidal Zone.
But also, isn't it a Twilight Zone too? Because the issue is that there's going to be 3D and 2D characters interacting or something.
Yeah. I wonder if they're going to do the Simpsons thing. Remember it must have been like the 2nd or 3rd Treehouse of Horror where Homer steps through the wall and suddenly becomes was that Rhythm and Hughes that did that?
Yes, it was Rhythm and Hughes.
Yeah,
Yep.
I mean, every possible 3D animation cliche, right down to the green grid and the pulsing electrons and the cones. Didn't it end with 3D Homer out in the world, and being excited about a store that sold erotic cakes?
Yes. I've never felt more connected to Homer than in that moment.
Well, okay. All right, we've gone down a very strange rabbit hole here, folks. All right, I'll tell you what. When we get back, we'll talk about something also from the early 90s, Beauty and the Beast, and how that wound up going to Broadway.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for this day.
Wish you could become a morning person? You know the type, up before the sun, early morning runs, first one to the office with donuts and a smile. How do they do it? Easy. With the new Galaxy Watch 8, sleep tracking and personalized insights from Samsung Health help you improve so you can wake up to a whole new you. One who, dare I say it, skips the snooze? It's possible. Train your sleep with Galaxy Watch 8. Learn more at Samsung.com. Requires compatible Samsung Galaxy phone, Samsung Health app, and Samsung account.
This episode is brought to you by Indeed. When your computer breaks, you don't wait for it to magically start working again. You fix the problem. So why wait to hire the people your company desperately needs? Use Indeed's sponsored jobs to hire top talent fast. And even better, you only pay for results. There's no need to wait. Speed up your hiring with a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply.
Drew, wanted to thank you again for talking up Ken Plume's The Art of DuckTales. Caved in and actually got myself a deluxe copy of the thing, and you were not wrong. It has some really, really cool stuff. I especially like the supplemental material that's in the softcover that sort of looks like the Junior Woodchuck Handbook.
Yes, that was all the stuff that they had to cut from the main book due to paper shortages, Jim.
Ken has made folks aware that if you go to his Patreon page, I believe it's called Duck Art. If you Google Ken Plume Patreon, this will come up. But he's actually made some additional pages that didn't make it into the Junior Woodchuck thing. With more information about the crew, you can download that there and print that up and sort of slip that into your book. He's also put together this amazing 8x8 book plate, a beautiful metallic shiny thing that celebrates the 75th anniversary of the character of Scrooge McDuck, the 35th anniversary of the original DuckTales series, and the 5th anniversary of the reboot. So if you want to make something that's already special, the deluxe edition of DuckTales, even more special, go check out what Ken's up to over on Patreon. We were just referring to Beauty and the Beast, which, by the way, 31 years ago tomorrow, November 22nd, was when that was released to theaters, and it was the first full-length animated feature to receive a Best Picture nomination. And mind you, it did okay at the Academy Award. It took home, 2 Oscars, right? The one for Best Score and then Best Song?
Yes.
3 songs from the score actually were nominated for Best Song. There was Belle, there was Be Our Guest, and then the title tune, Beauty and the Beast, and that's the one that took home the Oscar. So, did you ever get to see the Broadway show, whether the touring company or when it was at the Palace or the Luntfontein?
I never did. And you know what? I was going to go actually see them shooting the new special tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And it's getting out too late. And so I don't think I can go.
Okay.
So I will watch it on ABC with the rest of you.
This is an ongoing franchise. In fact, Thomas Schumacher, as recently as 2019, was talking about how there was a revival in the works of Beauty and the Beast, and it would be coming back to Broadway. Obviously, those plans got delayed or stymied by the pandemic, but evidently that's still something that's in the works. But for me, what's fascinating is how Beauty and the Beast went from being an animated film to being a Broadway musical. And, well, you've heard the story about Frank Rich, right? The theater critic for the New York Times.
About what he said about the animated movie being the best Broadway show. Yeah.
Yeah, the best Broadway score of that year, 1991. And that got Michael Eisner's attention. The guy grows up in New York and, reads the paper of record. So that's cool. But Michael was more excited about the fact that Beauty and the Beast, up until Aladdin came along, was the top grossing animated feature of all time. It took home $145 million in North America alone. And it was like, okay, let's do what we do here at Disney. So there were theme park shows. And in fact, the very first version of a Beauty and the Beast show at Disneyland was the Enchanted Bookshop. And this wasn't staged any place big like Videopolis or the Tomorrowland stage or that sort of thing. It was staged at the Plaza Gardens. You remember that tiny little theater off of the Hub? In fact, isn't that what they turned into the Princess Meet and Greet at Disneyland a couple of years back?
Is this the place where the jazz bands would
there we
play,
go.
On
That's
Friday
it exactly.
nights?
Yeah. And you can actually go on YouTube right now and watch this show. To bring the Beast on stage, they actually have Gaston and Goofy. And again, this is Bill Farmer recording Goofy's dialogue and Goofy singing. They do a dragon. I swear I saw a dragon song from Pete's Dragon, only changing the words to a beast. I saw a horrible beast. But again, it's this Mickey, Donald, Goofy, Minnie, Pluto show. But they have these wonderful little puppet versions of Lumiere and Cogsworth, and it's the sort of thing that Disney used to do. It's like, okay, this new movie is coming out. The parks need to support it. Entertainment has this much money. Okay, this is what we'll do. If we go to the East Coast, at Disney MGM, they did Beauty and the Beast live on stage. This was staged in the Theater of the Stars. In fact, it opened on the exact same day as the movie. It came live at the Studio Park on November 22nd, 1991. So in 1995, on the opening day of Toy Story, I went to the AMC Pleasure Island, saw the movie, and then got out in time to drive over to Disney MGM to catch the very first presentation to the public of the Toy Story parade. So again, that was one of the weird perks of living in Florida at the time. You could see the movie and then go immediately see how they promoted this thing in the parks or celebrated it. But at that point, it was still more of a review of Beauty and the Beast more than it was a retelling of the film. The Academy Awards happened March 30th, 1992. And the company is looking at Beauty and the Beast and is like, wow, that is a hit. And we need to sort of rethink how we're doing this in the park. So April 11th, 1992, a new version of Beauty and the Beast opens at Disneyland. This one is staged in the Videopolis Theater. It's a much more polished, professional version of the show. In fact, it's directed by a Robert Jesse Roth with choreography by Matt West. So here's the thing. Eisner goes to the park, sees it, likes it. But then at the end of that month, Michael travels to New York, where the International Radio and Television Society holds a benefit at the Waldorf Astoria. And they decide they're going to give Michael Eisner a medal. And so Disney hears about this and say, oh, hey, we can help make this even more of an occasion. They get Regis Philbin and Kathy Lee, but they decide, okay, while we're doing this, why don't our entertainment for the evening, why don't we stage a show around the music of Beauty and the Beast? So they put together a 20-minute long show called Beauty and the Beast, The Magic of the Music. And you have the original voice talent from Beauty and the Beast. Paige O'Hara is there and sings, Belle and something there, a number of the songs from the score. But also Jerry Orbach is there, and he does Be Our Guest. And Lea Salonga, the singing voice of Jasmine from Aladdin, is there. It's the very first public performance of any song from Aladdin. She actually sings A Whole New World with Galen Fott, who is the gentleman who originated the role of Gaston in Beauty and the Beast live on stage at Walt Disney World. But sort of to stack the deck here to make the show as professional as possible, Disney brings a couple of folks up from Walt Disney World. They bring up Andrea Kenny. She's the young lady who originated the role of Belle at Disney MGM, but she's there basically to back up Paige O'Hara, do the harmonies, that sort of thing. The reason I was thrilled that they pulled Disney talent to do this is Darren DePaul and Paula Pell, who were members of the original cast of the Adventurers Club. Paula played Pamelia Perkins, the chairwoman of the club, and Darren DePaul, hands down, was my favorite Otis friend. He was just had a wonderful take on the character. Anyway, at the end of this presentation, Eisner comes backstage and just blithers. He's like, oh my God, that was so good. I mean, this could really be a Broadway show. I mean, I know people have been talking about it. I mean, you saw that Frank Rich thing, but this could really be a Broadway show. And so Michael, after this gold medal presentation, goes back to California, actually reaches out to Jesse Roth and Matt West and says, hey, that version of Beauty and the Beast that you do at Disneyland, the half-hour-long version of the show, I need to talk with you guys. What would you think about taking that and turning that into a full-on Broadway musical? They were just kind of startled and like, yeah, we'd be willing to do that. So Michael hooks them up with Jeffrey Katzberg, the then head of animation, because at this point, Disney doesn't have a theatrical an arm of the company that stages, Broadway musicals, that sort of thing. So it's Jeffrey working with Roth and West who gets this thing going. And Gary Beach, who originated the role of Lumiere in the Broadway version of Beauty and the Beast, I asked him about how he got the role for Lumiere on Broadway, and he said it was so funny. He had friends who'd worked on the film, so he actually went to the El Cap for the premiere in Hollywood and loved the movie, especially loved Jerry Orbach's performance as Lumiere. And then a couple of months later, he goes to Disneyland and sees not the Enchanted Bookshop version, but the full stage version that they were doing at Videopolis. And Lumiere is the star of the show and does a great job. And Gary's walking out of the park sort of, why can't I get a role like Lumiere? And so we jump ahead to now it's like the late winter, early spring of 1993. And Gary's agreed to do a show with Carol Burnett in Long Beach. And a casting agent, Jay Binder, keeps reaching out to Gary and going, hey, Disney's doing workshopping of a stage version of Beauty and the Beast, and we would really love to have you for Lumiere. And can you come out? And he's like, well, I'd love to. I really would. But I'm doing this thing with Carol Burnett, and I can't back out. And he mentions it to Carol, and Carol was the one that's like, well, it's Disney. You gotta go. No. Don't worry about the show we're doing here. You go audition, you go be part of the workshop. And, that's how he wound up on Broadway as Lumiere. Like I said, I feel bad, Drew, that you're not going to get to see the shoot of the Beauty and the Beast celebration that's going to have. Is it ABC in December, right?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Okay. So, I know they talked about it for holiday 2022, but I also, and again, it still kind of blows my mind that you didn't get to see Beauty and the Beast, and you haven't seen Lion King yet.
I'm, depraved or deprived, one of the two, maybe both, actually, at this point. I would love to see them all.
One of the reasons Drew can't do this stuff is he's a very busy guy. In addition to writing 9,000 stories and keeping tabs on Bob Chapek and Bob Iger, he also does his wonderful Light the Fuse podcast with Charles Hood. So what's going on with Light the Fuse these days?
We talked to a sound designer who's actually working on 7 and 8, and who is trying to get us. We are sending him recordings of our dogs to try to sneak into the background of the Mission Impossible movies. We'll see if that actually happens. Somewhere in the mix, we want our dogs in there. But no, we have a lot of great episodes coming up. So yeah, just keep on trucking.
Oh, I love that Nova's going to make the big time. But again, you can stay on top of Drew's work at the Wrap. Likewise, the Light the Fuse, what's coming down the pike for that podcast, by following him on social media, which I admit has gotten a little challenging with the will it, won't it crash thing that's going on with Twitter. What did you decide, by the way? Are you going to Mastodon? Are you setting up
Yeah,
Chapek?
I think I'm just going to go. I'm too old to switch platforms at this point, Jim. I'm just going to ride it until the wheels fall off. So find me right now at Drew Tailored like a tailored shirt on Instagram and Twitter.
So that means for social media-wise, if you're looking for me, you can find me on Twitter and Instagram as Jim Hill Media, and over on Facebook as Jim Hill Media News. And I guess that's going to do it. So we'll cut Drew loose, and hopefully he and Katie will have a wonderful time in Palm Springs, and we'll pick up again next week.